Alright, and we're on in 3, 2, 1. This is Holographic Harley with Harley. I'm Harley. Here we go. So today's talk is on the great shift of 2020. 5G, AI, Elon Musk, fear, and love. In this talk, I will express the phrase energy quite a bit. And by energy, I refer to it as emotions. But E-motion, energy in motion. So, what is the rave of this great shift? What is it all about? Well, there are many interpretations, and there always shall be. For me, it resonates with the energy which you are putting out now. The energy which you emit shall be the momentum propelling you throughout 2020 and even far beyond. For example, there's this trend during the lockdown on social media for viewers that reminding them that it's okay to not be productive. This idea is the energy of lack, the energy of the emotions of sitting back and waiting for things to happen, waiting for things to turn back to normal, waiting in line. I'll give you a heads up right now, things will never be the same again. And so you can either be unproductive or you can be productive. You can look within, take the moment, and I hope many of you have by now, but have taken the moment to look within, to put a pause upon the news, to put a pause upon the external world, and to simply inquire yourself, what traits, what talents do I have to offer the world? Because whatever it may be, that is your passion. So here it is. Whatever it is, follow it and act on it now. Because rather you act on it now, 3 days from now, whenever you do, it's always going to be now. It doesn't matter if it's in the future or now. Now is always now. And so this is the idea of the shift in your energetic momentum, which will carry you throughout 2020 and far beyond. And so the idea is this. Channel and harness your energy, your vitality to create and not destroy. Because if you're unproductive after this lockdown, your vitality will be one of destruction and not creation. And so what I'm describing is the integrity of compassion, the integrity towards your passion, no matter the circumstances. How much do you want it? What do you desire? Because my message is always consistent. My message is you, every listener, whoever listens to this, you are deserving of your dreams, of your passions. And so the choice is always yours. It's never forced upon you, but the choice is always yours. But if we don't follow our passions, and each person chooses to remain unproductive, and this is no conspiracy, you can do the research for yourself. But the possibility of the future will be one which is linear, and that is one of technology which controls you, rather than us self-regulating technology as a tool. I draw these two dichotomies. I draw a line to distinguish between the two because behavior works like a computer program. Whatever you download, rather productivity or being unproductive, unproductivity. I don't know if that's a word. Anyhow, once the collective of humanity psychologically downloads the program of connectivity, of being connected, of consuming information, it becomes a software of thoughts and actions which mirror unconscious routine and behavior. And so that idea of being unproductive is waking up, replaying residuals of the day before, always on your phone, always wanting more, never having enough, wanting to consume more information. And this creates a culture of more. And notice how you cannot spell culture without cult. Culture, a true cult, cult true. I think that's funny. But anyhow, once this idea is implemented of more, it creates the idea that current technology is not enough. And this implies a desire for more. Now, this leads us to 5G. What is 5G? Is it safe? I don't know. I'm not a researcher. I don't know if it's safe. There are currently no independent studies of the safety of 5G. We don't ask enough questions, and this is what I mean by technology controlling us rather than us self-regulating it. But what is 5G? So the promise of 5G, and you can look it up on Verizon or Sprint or AT&T, the promise of 5G is to bring about much faster processing and download speeds. 5G uses millimeter wave technology to create a high bandwidth ranging from 25 to 95 gigahertz. And this involves the infrastructure of many masts, which are frequency towers, beaming frequencies within a close proximity and no less than 1,500 feet, which is about 0.284 miles. On the other hand, there's 4G broadband, which is current technology, which for many people is not enough. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with technology as long as we regulate it. But 4G broadband works like this. It emits a low bandwidth between 2.5 and 6 gigahertz, as opposed to 25 and 95 emitted from 5G. And so 4G does not involve many mast frequency towers, but they beam ping waves, and that's about every 10 miles or so. So 52,800 feet. The idea, I believe, and this is no conspiracy, 5G is to create a spider's web of Wi-Fi to connect all technology. For example, the spider's web is to form a smart grid, and that's literally what it's called, and a smart grid from coast to coast, which means communication systems for all automated vehicles, large-scale stadiums and all public events, smart agriculture, and also environmental monitoring for climate change. The idea is the smart grid coupled with nanotechnology to thus monitor temperature, humidity, noise levels, luminosity, and atmospheric pressure. And the technology that will come out will be sort of miniature drones that watch these things. But also with the mast every 1,500 feet or even closer, it creates smart neighborhoods, smart schools, smart homes, and even smart cities. The final product is facial recognition technology from coast to coast. And to me, if you haven't got the message yet, it is mass surveillance, external mass surveillance, and we'll get more to that here in a moment. But where was 5G created? China. China launched its 5G network and commercial operations on November 11th, 2019. And then just 3 months, China successfully implemented a smart grid within cities, which has facial recognition technology, as to justify the social credit system implemented, or first introduced rather, in 2014. The social credit system measures an individual's reputation and loyalty to the Communist Party. And so if you're out of line, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes for the technology to recognize your face and then put you in the network, and then it regulates and deducts points just like any financial credit. But the idea is if you are out of line, then they can take points away, which can affect the homes you get, or the education that your children receive, or the jobs which you receive. Now, will America implement something like a social credit system? No, not quite. And I think America will take it in a different direction. I don't believe it's America wants to. They want external surveillance, but they also want internal surveillance. The idea is this. You can watch TED Talks. Look up a man, Ray Kurzweil, and he's a Google executive, and he talks about merging the human mind with the AI cloud by 2030, and the cloud will connect with the smart grid. And the idea is this. The idea is to microchip the brain with nanotechnology before the neural cortex. And so right now on your computer, on your phone, that's one computer, and you have access to a limitless epistemology of all human knowledge. With the cloud, you can access 10,000 computers all in your mind. And on one idea, that's cool. But Kirschweiler says it will make us become godlike, and this is not godlike. This technology will make us become the hearers of many, and yet the deciphers of few. We will know a lot, and yet understand too little. Personally, to me, this idea of accessing human knowledge we have to remember Carl Sagan's poem, The Pale Blue Dot. Every tyrant who's ever existed, I'm paraphrasing, but every tyrant that's ever existed, every king who's ever ruled, every poor person who's ever lived has all come from this pale blue dot. All knowledge that we've ever known has only occurred on this pale blue dot. And so, even if you're aware of all the human knowledge, you only know the knowledge of this pale blue dot. Technology can be beautiful. We can regulate technology in a way to live interplanetary. But the idea of embedding the microchip within our neocortex, this goes back to the book of Revelations, and when John warns about the mark of the beast, the 666 on not only your right hand, but on your forehead, where the neocortex is. And now this brings us to Elon Musk. Musk, he once gave a strong warning to humanity that technology will one day become virtual and it will be almost indistinguishable from physical reality. We won't be able to tell the difference. This idea was a forewarning of disassociation. But in regards of Musk, I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong when he voices that it's too late to change AI for humanity. The future's already happened. Look around you. No, it hasn't. The smart grid has not been implemented. To affirm this is to otherwise be an affirmation of the dark, to affirm separation, to affirm the idea that you don't have a choice. And that's the idea of the dark, is to make you think, to make you believe that you are without a choice. However, I do not believe we should cast judgment before, Elon Musk, because there's a quote from Alan Watts, and Alan once said, "At the end of every play, both the hero and the villain walk onto the stage, hold hands, and bow before the audience. And the audience applauds both of them equally." And so you see, the idea that people say we're living in dark times, we're living in the dark ages. We're not living in the dark ages. COVID-19 is nothing like the bubonic plague. We are merely just residing in an imbalanced moment, one that is currently leaning more towards the dark. But if you stop judging the dark, it doesn't have a food source anymore. And when it does not have a food source, it cannot exist. And so this imbalance of the dark is just playing a role. It's playing a part in humanity to remind us that, we need to wake up. And that's why I said before the drama began, Musk played this role of warning people, but now he's playing the role of saying, it's too late. It's not too late. It's never too late. That's a lie. And this idea doubles back to one I just said about David Icke. David Icke is an affirmation of the dark when he calls Musk a psychopath for this outlook. And, this is, again, it's chastising judgment before Babylon. It's chastising hostility and animosity. And when you give that your vitality, when you give that your attention, it strips away from you. I'll put it simple. If you do not wish for a negative event to occur, stop giving it your conscious vitality, and by the hermetic laws of vibration and correspondence, it cannot occur in your reality. And so that's the thing. People who follow these destructive paths like Ike, they create the language of destruction, the invoking anger, and this just strips away because we only have a finite amount of energy, and if we focus that energy upon negativity, well, then we will align ourselves literally in a vibration and an expression wherein that reality will exist. But we're not going to let that happen because we recognize that our point of power is here and now, and that our passions are stronger than this idea of a projected idea onto us. And the projected idea is fear. The idea that we are linear beings entrapped within either one or the other choice. And we are not linear. We are multidimensional, like a baby in the womb. All possibilities exist, especially once we follow our passions. And so the idea of fear is to make you escape reality, to make you preoccupy your minds with wanting to consume more information, escaping fear and resisting fear. And that's not how you overcome fear. We must let fear serve us. And see, that's changing your relationship with language. For instance, we must allow ourselves to be afraid of fear. Yesterday I was standing on a porch. It was relatively high. Actually, it wasn't. It was about 30 feet. But I looked down and I was scared. I thought I would fall and die. But I allowed myself to be afraid of that fear. And once I felt it, I started to laugh at how silly I was for allowing myself to be afraid. And so once we get over that idea and see that how silly fear actually is, our energy changes, our emotions change. The shift comes about and it propels us. And so we must allow fear to serve us. We cannot resist fear. We have to allow it. That's the only way to overcome it, to transmute our fear, our pain into consciousness, and that will be the momentum. For fear is an illusion. Fear is silly. And with silliness comes laughter, and we should laugh in the face of fear. We should walk through it. We just need to lighten up, Our relationship with language, our relationships with ourselves, we need to lighten up and play the role of love and connection, because there are too many people playing the role of darkness. And we don't need to add on to that, because dark and light they're two sides of the same coin. They are one of the same. Without darkness, we can never have a gratitude for love. And so there's a beauty in the dark. There's a beauty in the dark to recognize that without it playing its role, we can never truly be grateful for love and connection. And so we should eat our fears. The idea of eating our fears is to change our relationship of how we see fear. For instance, this morning I had a bowl of oatmeal with pumpkin seeds, raspberries, bananas, and honey. Thank God, I'm so grateful, because that food, it provided me the energy, the vitality to record this podcast. And what if I were to tell you, if I was holding a banana in my hand and I made that banana become a human, I turned water to wine, you would say, oh my gosh, he's God. Changing your perspective on food's the same thing. I consumed the oatmeal, I digested it, and it made me into a human. And so away I turned food into a human being. And so that must make me God, right? I'm just trying to bring about a smile here, but food is the same way as love. It's the source which awakens the Christ within. The etymology of Christ, it derives from Greek origin, Christos, meaning anointed. Before I close, I'll leave you with a quote from Paul, Galatians 1:27. God wanted to make known among the Gentiles the glorious wealth of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ resides within, God resides within. And once we recognize that, we are deserving of our passions, we are deserving of love, of connection, we can shift into a reality wherein this imbalance of the dark no longer exists. Again, the choice is solely yours. And that's all I got for today. So don't forget to subscribe below. And until then, know you are beautiful. Be well.